let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Edwin Munisk, who writes, "Hello, John et al. I watched those 2 crazy knockouts on UFC 250. Oh my God, 2 walk-off knockouts, 2 of the craziest knockouts I've seen in a long time. It was glorious. It was a really good card, despite the fact that my good Canadian girl got her ass handed to her. Anyway, those 2 crazy knockouts on UFC 250 the other night. But the other thing that stood out to me was there was a lot of marketing for that Russell Crowe movie, Unhinged. They kept saying, only in theaters on July 1st. With them spending all that advertising money, does this pretty much lock that it will in fact be in movie theaters in just 3 weeks? Does that bode well for Tenet?" All right, thanks. All right, man, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, listen, I know not everybody watches UFC. You know I'm a bit of an MMA fanatic, but during UFC 250, and for those of you who watched it, and it's like the big sporting thing on TV right now is on ESPN, and then the pay-per-view, it's the biggest thing. It's the biggest sport on TV right now because it's the only sport on TV right now. But during the UFC 250 broadcast, they were constantly, I mean, that whole thing was sponsored by Unhinged, which is surprising for a couple of reasons. The smaller reasons first. Number 1, it's a smaller film. You don't normally see the smaller films spending that type of dollars that you need to be on the prime UFC. I mean, that's expensive. It's not Super Bowl expensive. Don't get me wrong. It's nothing like that, but it's still fairly expensive, right? So that was surprise number 1. Surprise number 2 was that this studio, the studio behind Russell Crowe's new film Unhinged. This is their first feature. So for them to step out and say, we're going to spend this money on our first film, we're going to put this kind of money behind a film like this as our first film out of the gate, that was kind of impressive too. But the third thing that is by far the biggest and the most interesting here is the very fact that they were spending marketing dollars telling the public this movie is going to be in theaters in 3 weeks. When right now, about 80% of the theaters are still closed. Now, you guys remember last week we talked that the movie theater organization known as NATO, North American Theater Owners, they put out a statement that said they calculate that by July 17th, which is the day that Tenet is supposed to come out, they're calculating that by July 17th, 90% of the global theaters will be open again. Okay, whether that's true or not, we'll find out. July 1st, though, is 2 weeks earlier. Are they really that confident that those theaters are going to be open? Because listen, one of the reasons we've been seeing, studios hold back on trailers that are for movies that are even supposed to be coming out in August or September is because you got to spend a lot of money to drop those trailers on television and the print ads and stuff like that. That's a big, significant investment. And you've got to feel confident that, yep, our movie is going to make those release dates. You got to feel 100% confident about that. So I think you're seeing a lot of studios taking a very wise approach of saying, or distributors taking the wise approach of, let's just wait. Let's wait. Hold fire. They're waiting. So for this pretty much new studio to come out with this film and spend the type of dollars that they need to spend to basically have a takeover of a UFC event for their movie and advertise it as only in theaters July 1st. That tells me that they feel pretty confident that there's going to be a sufficient number of movie theaters open by that time. And Robert and I talked about Unhinged before when they first dropped their trailer. There's also an element here of being able to say ours was the first new movie, because remember, Warner Brothers wanted Tenet to be that. Warner Brothers wanted Tenet to be the first movie back in theaters. Well, they got hopscotched, maybe wisely, maybe unwisely, but now we've got Unhinged with Russell Crowe is going to be the first movie out in theaters. Whether that'll work to its benefit or its detriment, we'll have to find out. Now, as far as the last part of your question goes about, what does this bode well for Tenet? I'm going to say this. Just like NATO saying that they believe 90% of the theaters are going to be open by July 17th, And I said, that doesn't guarantee that we're going to see Tenet out. I don't think Unhinged coming out on July 1st, if they're able to do it, I don't think that that automatically guarantees that Tenet will hit July 17th either. It doesn't guarantee it. But if you're asking me, do I think this bodes well for Tenet? That this bodes well that on July 17th, we're going to see Christopher Nolan's new film with John David Washington and why am I suddenly afraid? Robert Pattinson and all these guys. I think it bodes well. Like if I was at like 70% certainty that I think Tenet was going to come out on July 17th, I think now I'm at 75. So I think it speaks well to it. But then you get into the issue of, is this even a smart move on their part? Like some people are still questioning whether it's even wise for Tenet to try to come out on July 17th. Is it a good idea to come out even two weeks earlier than that? I don't know. A part of my judgment on this is clouded because you guys know I just want to get back into the movie theaters. I just want to go to the movies again. So part of my judgment, I'm sure, is pretty much clouded on that, but maybe it's smart, maybe it's not. Question here is, guys, what do you think about this? Do you think that this movie, after spending all this money on its marketing, is indeed going to hit that July 1st release date? If so, what do you think that means for Tenet? Do you think that reinforces the idea that Tenet can come out 2 weeks later? Does it mean nothing? What do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right.